Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. Building a functional economy.
Instead of bringing all these vehicles into the country, we begin to produce them in Nigeria.
Nigeria becoming one of the best investment destinations.
Nigeria is one of only 14 countries in Africa with an online investor's guide.
Diversification of the economy.
This year alone, we must have, funded enterprises up to 200 billion naira in various forms, and that's just one year.
Changing the dynamics of industrialization.
And that executive order is about making it easier to do business by increasing transparency so that people can understand government and how it works and how it renders services to people, so it's not a black box.
Creating new business blueprints.
The Corporate Affairs Commission, which is also an agency under the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, has done a lot of work in making things easier for Nigerians to be able to register businesses.
The mandate of the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is to create an enabling environment to stimulate industrialization, especially medium and small-scale industries, domestic investments, and attract foreign direct investment, and to ensure a coordinated and integrated approach to Nigeria's policy.
Just as the name implies, the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is focused primarily on promoting industry, trade and investment. And it's our considered view that the most important role we have is to be the enabler, to play, to basically help government as a whole provide that enabling environment for industry, trade and investment to thrive.
Our mandate is founded on the key areas. Create an enabling environment for industry, trade and investment in Nigeria. Implement the Nigeria Industrial Resolution Plan. Champion the cause of Nigeria's MSMEs as a means of creating jobs and achieving inclusive growth. Proactively attract long-term local and foreign investments. Foster the integration of Nigerian-based businesses into regional and global value chains.
NIPC was created to encourage, to promote and to coordinate investment in Nigeria. Broadly speaking, I see those objects as boiling down into 4 principal functions. The first one is projecting a positive image for Nigeria as an attractive investment destination. And we do that in a variety of ways, including in particular the quality of the presentations that we make and the engagements that we have at audiences, at functions, at conferences, at forums in Nigeria and across the world. The second aspect of our mandate is investment promotion, where we encourage people to invest in Nigeria, whether those investors are Nigerians or non-Nigerians. In fact, we have as much of an interest in having foreign direct investment come into Nigeria as we have domestic direct investment come into Nigeria. But we're as interested in direct investment as we're interested in portfolio investment. So we're interested in the entire gamut of investments, whether they're from Nigerians or from non-Nigerians. The third broad aspect of our mandate is investment facilitation, essentially providing quality aftercare to people who have already invested in Nigeria and who have one challenge or the other, or who require hand-holding in getting into Nigeria as an investment destination. I find with many existing companies, the value that NIPC adds often rears its head when they have challenges with one government agency or the other. These 3 aspects mean that we interact quite actively with the private sector, which brings me to the 4th aspect of NIPC's mandate, which is policy advocacy, where we advise government on the things that government needs to do to achieve government's own stated investment ambitions. The policy changes that we get involved in are either initiated by NIPC or supported by NIPC. But the object of our policy advocacy effort is to get government to change its behavior, to introduce a policy or a measure that will help government better achieve the objectives that government has stated that it wants to in the context of investors and investments.
Well, we are a DFI. DFI means a Development Finance Institution. Basically, we are to help to ensure some of the policies of governments. For instance, we are a bank of industry. One of the major problems of the industrial sector is access to finance at rates that make sense. In Nigeria today, people are borrowing money at between 20 and 30% per annum. In the industrial sector, they are beset with a lot of problems. These are the same guys, apart from the high interest rate they have to pay, basically each one is like a government on its own. You have to have your own borehole, you have to have your own power generation, you have to have your own health care for your staff. So by the time you put all these costs together, it makes it very difficult to compete. So part of what we are supposed to do at Bank of Industry is to make funding available at single digits and long-term money. And also to ensure that some of these factories, the ones that are dead, can be brought back to life. The ones who are alive can be expanded. And to have, most of the Nigerian commercial banks, don't have long-term money. So part of what we do is to ensure that these monies are given out at good rates, at long term. We support industries with backward linkages. We support industries that employ a lot of people. We look at areas of emphasis for government, like the creative sector, in all of those areas. And that's part of what we do. There's advocacy for those who are in the industry that we do. If, for instance, where you are, you can produce enough in Nigeria and you need government to come in to assist you through tariffs, we are there to make a case for you to government. So these are some of the things that Bank of Industry does.
Our vision for the ministry is to promote economic growth, create jobs, and generate wealth. Our mission is to formulate and implement policies and programs to attract investment, boost industrialization, increase trade and exports, and develop enterprises.
The main objective of the Industrial Council is to implement largely cross-cutting issues, issues that affect industry today and inhibit growth. So what are the issues that are inhibiting additional investment or disincentivizing investment? The first one, if I look at the Critical Infrastructure Subcommittee, is power. So what we did was we identified specific power projects, either that are ongoing or require government additional push to get them to full implementation. Power projects that impact industrial clusters across the country that are either stalled or have not been, that require kickstarting. So our objective actually is to implement those initiatives that address the issues why industry is not growing as fast as it should, or industries that continue to disincentivize additional investment.
The Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, PEBEC, was inaugurated in July 2016. This was the administration's flagship initiative to reform the business environment, attract investment, and diversify the economy.
It's actually beyond raw materials. Did you know that the biggest driver of growth and job creation in the Nigerian economy now is not currently the oil and gas or hydrocarbon sectors of our economy? It's services, which accounts for 54% of the GDP, the wealth of a country. It's and when you break that down, when you begin to break that down, is what I guess you already know is one Nigeria into another. It's innovation, it's our digital economy operators, it's those working in the area of e-commerce, it's our software engineers who are now very, very aggressively being headhunted from major economies in the world because of their abilities in writing software that can deal with development challenges and gain access to markets.
So the ease of doing business intervention is one that is dear to everybody's heart. It's dear to the Vice President. Immediately the minister was appointed. This was a priority area he wanted to focus on. It's dear to other agencies in Fmiti, like NIPC, NEPC. It's something that sits on the heart of trade and investment in Nigeria. So because of that, we've all come together to deliver an agenda. And over the last, let me say 3 years, we worked in a strategic, systemic manner. The Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council was inaugurated in July of 2016. It has, like I said, the Vice President as chair and the Minister as Vice Chair. Has about 10 other ministers, Minister of Power, Minister of Finance, Minister of Foreign Affairs Information. It has other people like the Central Bank Governor, of course the Head of Civil Service as members. It has representation from the private sector. Later was expanded to have representation from state governments. Lagos and Kano State have representatives on the council. It also has representation from the National Assembly and from the judiciary.
Nigeria has been blessed with good resources in terms of talent and people, and when we have people and companies go to other countries where it's easier, we see how they perform. And so how do you make that something that can come to bear here?
The World Bank's 2018 Doing Business Report, released in October 2017, with Nigeria moving up 24 places from 169th to 145th. Nigeria was also recognized as one of the 10 most reformed business climates in the world.
We came up with something that works for us, building pillars based on institutionalization of reforms, collaboration across all sectors like I mentioned, and just making sure that we all work together because it's a marathon, not a sprint, so it's a continuous intervention. Now specifically, we took the World Bank doing business indicators as an empirical tool for measuring our work.
PEBEC's principal goal is to make it easier for MSMEs to do business, grow, and contribute to sustainable economic activity and provide the jobs essential to improve social inclusion.
So there's a lot that needs to be done by SMEs, which are MSMEs, as the name might be, in terms of giving them all the necessary resources to be able to grow to that next level. So we've also have programs that's helped with capacity building, that's helped with financing, that's helped with providing the kind of environment for those SMEs to go to the next level.
It's important for us to diversify the sources of foreign exchange, try to achieve structural transformation by getting a lot more output, a lot more jobs, a lot more taxes and economic activity coming out of the non-oil sector.
It's meant to be a systemic intervention because we say that the average entrepreneur doesn't need to know the minister, doesn't need to know a head of agency or anybody in the presidency to be able to register their business, to be able to pay their taxes, to be able to have access to credit and just go about their business because Nigerians are really entrepreneurial.
PEBEC created Trading with Nigeria, TWN, to identify and eradicate the issues raised by stakeholders. They worked with the National Assembly and passed a new legislative tool for Nigeria to remove irritants and bottlenecks from our extant laws.
If you ask us what's the one thing that is the priority of the ministry, and I would say of the government, frankly, from point of view of really working with businesses, working with the private sector, with small and medium enterprises, with all the players in the economy, is to provide an enabling environment, an environment that is helpful and supportive for people to go about their business and for people to, frankly, do whatever they do and do it without the system being a bottleneck or a deterrent. We want the system to be enabling, to be facilitating, to be helpful to people as they go about their business.
One of the biggest things that we have done recently is sign an MOU with Volkswagen to bring them back into Nigeria, for them to once again produce vehicles. And as we all know, Volkswagen is a significant company because it is the largest auto manufacturer in Europe, one of the largest in the world, and it is really big on electric vehicles where the industry is headed. So having Volkswagen agree to come back into Nigeria is a big plus for the ministry, for the agency, and for the Nigerian economy. We are the agency saddled with the responsibility of developing the local automotive sector in Nigeria. This entails promoting actual production of vehicles within the borders of the country, also promoting the transfer of technology and skills into Nigeria so that our people and youth are better equipped to be part of that industry.
As part of the agenda of Mr. President under the ERGP, the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, it's important for us to diversify the sources of foreign exchange, try to achieve structural transformation by getting a lot more output, a lot more jobs, a lot more taxes and economic activity coming out of the non-oil sector. And one of the ways that we have learned from recent economic history, at least all of the economic history of the 20th century and the early 21st century, is that one of the quickest ways for poor and developing countries to grow and achieve transformation is by focusing on manufacturing. Industrial activity, manufacturing creates lots of high quality jobs in a way that mining and agriculture cannot over the long term. So countries that want to grow and countries that have grown and countries that grew in the 20th and 21st century, most spectacularly China, did so by focusing on export-oriented manufacturing. And one of the tools, one of the catalysts for achieving all of that growth has been the use of special economic zones. And these are areas where government offers very generous incentives, world-class facilities in terms of infrastructure, an environment with ease of doing business that encourages significant foreign and domestic investment into such economies. So these special economic zones are magnets for investment, and that investment typically has gone into export-oriented activity. China, which, like I said, has been the most spectacular success, basically took a whole generation, took the whole country, almost the whole country, out of poverty in one generation. And in 40 years, China has become the second largest economy in the world from being one of the poorest. What we're trying to do is to replicate that same type of transformation in Nigeria.
The federal government has this idea that they're going to drive manufacturing by creating locations, spaces where they can put infrastructure. That is, where you have 24-hour power, where you have broadband communication, where you have roads that will connect the place to other places. You know, anything you're going to do in that place, you're not going to have program of infrastructure. So that's the MINE program, Made in Nigeria for Export. So many locations that, you know, were chosen, but there are 3 pilots. Enyimba, that is Aba, Lagos, and Kano. And that's how we plugged into the program. I think it should be, you know, one of the most important programs Nigeria should really do now.
Project Peer. The objective of Project Peer is to transform each of the registries into an effective and efficient modern intellectual property office consistent with good practices across the globe and the ease of doing business policy of the federal government of Nigeria, particularly with respect to transparency and the acceleration of the approval processes.
PIA stands for professionalizing the organization and operations of the registries. E is efficient service delivery. A is automating the processes and workflows, while R is responsiveness to the needs of the stakeholders and managing their expectations. So we are looking at these deliveries to actually sustain way beyond, and that's why the word PIA, standing for longevity, meaning whatever we deliver, whatever the outcome is, we expect it to be sustainable for a very long time.
The opportunities that have arisen from implementing the project are that, with respect to the administrative structure for intellectual property rights in Nigeria, the turnaround time or the challenges of the past are being cleared up, and so people can now register their trademarks within a reasonable time. People can register their patents and industrial design within a reasonable time.
The federal government of Nigeria realizes the importance of intellectual property, IP, as a key enabler of the development of the economy.
They've impacted my business by putting me in good stead with my clients. Most of my clients are international clients. 90% of my clients are international clients, And we've been having a tug of war. When you go out for conferences, it's all about Nigeria inefficiencies in the Nigerian system, in the Nigerian IP system, But in the last 2 years, we have been able to go to conferences with our heads held high. Why? Because we are able to deliver on what the clients expect us to do. And we've done those things, we've issued certificates, we've forwarded certificates to our clients, we've responded to issues, we've filed agreements, we've done all the administrative work, not that the clients expect, at least outside the quasi-judicial functions of the registry.
There is significant reduction in the waiting period for processing applications. Applications are now better tracked such that there is visibility regarding operations, ability to detect problems early before they crystallize into backlogs. The digitalization of records of the registries commenced to address the problems of missing files and inaccessible records.
Now, if you have technology or a solution, the solution makes the visibility that the minister or any other person supervising the registry will be able to, through a dashboard, know the number of applications that came in by week, by month, and track them. And as you automate based on sound processes, you reduce manual intervention and also improve speed.
GEM, G-E-M, GEM is a $160 million World Bank funded project being implemented by Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, FMITI, contributes to the diversification of the Nigerian economy by supporting sectors that have high growth potential, hence creating massive employment. The project supports micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, MSMEs, operating in 5 high-growth sectors of the economy, namely ICT, entertainment, construction and real estate, light manufacturing, including agro and industrial processing, tourism and hospitality.
We focus mostly on 5 areas: ICT, entertainment, hospitality, like manufacturing, and tourism. Now, the essence of these areas, because we see them as high growth areas. Now, if you look at the ecosystem in the SMEs, if you want to bring about economic development, you cannot rule them out. So the essence of GEM is to, empower the SMEs to grow. When they grow, they generate employment. Employment to bring about household income growth, which in itself will give each household the purchasing power to go to the market and be able to spend.
This support to MSMEs is channeled through an online platform called the Business Innovation and Growth (BIG) portal. Through this platform, the project provides bespoke interventions training, technical assistance, grant schemes. More than 89,000 small and medium enterprises registered on the BIG portal. Over 900 Nigerian MSMEs have benefited from grants to implement their business plans. At least 40 local consulting firms trained to deliver technical services to MSMEs. Over 750 Nigerian MSMEs have benefited from the services of the project's trained business development service providers. Over 21,000 Nigerian MSMEs have received technical assistance, including training offered by EDC and Lagos Business School.
One of the beneficiaries of the GEM program by the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. So we build enterprise-level software for development agencies, and so we were fortunate to take advantage of the GEM program. One of the things, the key or cardinal thing that the GEM program did for us was to endorse us and then create a platform that allowed other international institutions to be comfortable in engaging us for our services directly.
The project has supported the entertainment industry by funding 2 online music distribution companies with a view to reduce piracy and improve the income of content developers in the music industry. Within the project's period, at least 200 SMEs will benefit from these services. 400 graduates trained in video and sound editing under support to the entertainment industry. 600 Nigerians were trained in various artisan skills for the construction sector to reduce the influx of foreign skilled labor taking Nigerian jobs. GEM supported and continues to support business environment reforms that are being implemented by the EBES Secretariat. Training for public staff, knowledge transfers from consultants to allow for institutional memories and sustainability plan for the project. The project has so far catalyzed the creation of over 26,000 jobs in the 5 sectors of its focus. It is pertinent to note that a large amount of GEM's interventions that are aimed at creating jobs are not yet matured.
I work as the Chief Operating Officer of the Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program, GEEP, which comprises of market money, trader money, and farmer money. So it's a program that has been set aside or set up by the federal government to give credit, loans to people at the base of the pyramid. Think about market women, artisans, youth, and farmers.
Under the GEEP program, we have 3 main products. We have the market money, we have the farmer money, and we have the trader money. And all of these target, give loans ranging from 10,000 naira at the trader money level to 50,000 naira at the market money level. And when we're working with farmers, it goes a bit higher. And so loans sometimes get up to about 350,000 naira. And basically all this is available to qualifying participants, and what the administration have done is to simplify and make it very easy for people to access these loans.
Over 1 million Nigerians have been empowered through our activities.
Up until date, in a space of about 2 years, we've disbursed over 1.5 million loans to Nigerians who, majority of whom have never accessed loans before, majority of whom have never used financial tools before, majority of whom have opened the bank accounts or the mobile wallets for the purpose of these loans served by our agents. And all of this documented electronically in a way that we can track and serve them going forward. And they continue to build a financial history for themselves.
The Honorable Minister for Industry, Trade and Investment has, since the beginning of this administration, embarked on a number of transformation projects, which I'm sure you must have heard about. One of them is a project that is called SME Portal, a PPP-based project, which is primarily a single window portal, a trade gateway, whereby SMEs, MSMEs, can interact with government to uptake government services, especially services that are related to industry, trade and investment.
We have done a lot, but there is more work to be done. Let's work together, and by so doing, you'll find that we could create a better country for us all.